Happy Monday, League City. Glad to be here with you on this great Monday. All the kids are back in school around the area, so hope you're enjoying your lunch kid-free. I'm here today because it's Monday, and we know what that is. Mondays with the mayor, Mayor Pat. Thank you as always for joining.
Happy to be here.
And we have a special guest, City Manager John Baumgartner. Thanks for stopping by today.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate that.
Well, hard to believe, gentlemen, but 2 years ago today, the anniversary of Hurricane Harvey. Wow. I mean, we were just talking before that seems like it was 2 years ago, but then sometimes it seems like just yesterday.
Well, it was without a doubt the worst natural disaster that we've had in this city in our history. 55 to 60 inches of rain was overwhelming, and anybody along Clear Creek or Dickinson Bayou knows the perils of that. But it's a bittersweet thing because as bad as it was, as I think back, I've been reflecting all morning on this, but the horrible part was how many people were inconvenienced, their houses were destroyed, they had to rebuild. But the sweet part of that is that this community really did come together to help one another. It was unbelievable. I always tell the story about the 103-year-old neighbor down the street. Everybody's down, trying to help get him out. Neighbors were out helping mush houses. Churches, our faith community really came out and supported the community. And, maybe it was a once-in-a-lifetime thing, but the way we're growing, and I'm sure John will talk about this, but we have to be prepared for the next time. I pray every morning we don't see a next time at 60 inches, but it's highly possible, and weather patterns are being somewhat strange. So we have to prepare, and, when I think about the last 2 years, and particularly not only helping people, but this city came together. They passed a bond issue, first one in 27 years, and they started putting the building blocks together to keep this from happening again. Major drainage projects, major road projects, all of which John will talk about. But I think the part that's even more interesting than the folks who came together that passed this by an overwhelming vote was John, at the beginning of this, was tasked with getting all the public agencies together so that we could get a core study done, which was going to cost some money. And John went out and did what a lot of us had dreamed could happen, but had never happened in the history of this city. He got Galveston County and Harris County to work together and to put money out for a major drainage project. He got all the communities along the north end of Galveston County to come together. They're all paying their fair share. And what we're looking for, as John will go on here in a second about, is to try to get some way that we can get Dickinson Bayou and Clear Creek draining out to Galveston Bay and out to the Gulf a lot faster. That's the key to stopping flooding upstream. There's a lot happening. There's retention ponds going in on Dickinson Bayou and Clear Creek farther up from us, which will help a little bit. And what our bond issue was to clean out our drainage arteries that feed into Clear Creek. But Clear Creek itself and the bridges that are along the way have always functioned as a dam, which backed up in our community. And, those are all being dealt with, which is great. You all drive on I-45, you see how elevated it is, and God forbid we're going to need about a 50-foot surge with that bridge that's coming off 518 that's going to inject people in the track. Good things are happening. I know I said to some people this morning, it never happens fast enough, but only to say to people in town, we appreciate your patience. Quite frankly, this election was in May, which gave us the means to get this done. John immediately started issuing out contracts for drainage, and he'll talk about where we are and all that, but it's happening now. And I would suspect in the next couple months that we're probably going to see some construction projects come across the city council dais.
Well, and things have already happened
Yes.
already it
Yes.
changes that we've made. You know, being
Yes.
the 2 anniversary, it's a good segue to John. You know, what have we done already, and quite a bit has been done in the last 2 years to really harden our city for any sort of flooding event, whether it's a hurricane or inclement weather.
Yeah, so I think as the mayor said, none of it happens as fast as we'd like it to happen. And when we talked about Harvey and we talked about what we did immediately with the drainage studies, but really it's a multifaceted approach. So one of the first things we did was we looked at our code. What are we doing with the existing development? As everybody knows, we're about 110,000 today, going somewhere north of $200,000. So we want to make sure
200,000 population, people.
I apologize.
No, that's okay. I knew what you meant. I just want to make sure those at home knew.
200,000 people. And so we asked, so what can we do to, as we look forward, develop smarter? And so we increased the standards on how much drainage that they have to hold, how much detention that they have to build.
And that's any new development
And
coming in since, a year ago?
Yeah,
or
that's new development.
Yeah.
And so the issue there is, if we had another Harvey, we don't want 8,000 more new homes to flood.
Right.
And then we want to minimize any impact on what they have on the downstream homeowners. So we've increased detention, increased design standards, etc. The next piece of that is systemically, what are we doing? And that's the bond issue and all the projects associated with the bond issue. And so we've got 3 or 4 of those under design as we sit here today. We've got a couple of contracts that we're working on for the next couple meetings. As the mayor said, our goal is to have as many of those under contract by the end of the year as we can. And then a couple of projects that actually were under design before the storm but have significant drainage improvements. One was North Kansas Avenue, which is in the historic district. We took that, we built a 10 by 10 box. We improved the flow at the 4th in Kansas. We allowed ourselves to build a system that we can continue to tie into. Many of you see Park Avenue under construction today, and so that will divert drainage around League Park and then ultimately tie into the same core drainage structure we built with Kansas Avenue. That was about $2 million worth of drainage improvements. And again, ultimately helps the historic district. It provides a foundation. And then St. Christopher Avenue was another project. It was $2 million. $1 million of that was drainage, and it diverted water directly to Robinson Bayou and not through the Meadows neighborhood. So again, provides relief. It's be nice to sit here and have one project that cures everything.
Yeah.
There's not one project.
No.
We have to look at each of the neighborhoods incrementally. That's why there's 26 different drainage projects associated with the bond issue. These are a couple of projects that were already under design. Again, we've been thinking about the drainage. And then the last prong to that approach is the regional drainage studies that the mayor alluded to, both on Clear Creek, Dickinson Bayou. Got to start with a study. Got 100 great ideas. What can we do? We can't quantify. What does it really mean? And so we've worked to put together a coalition of cities, counties, the Army Corps of Engineers, Harris County Flood Control. It's about a $1.5 million study.
Wow.
And so right now I've got agreement for most of the partner agencies. I've got to formalize those agreements. They're all out for review, and we'll be bringing those back to council shortly.
And so the Army Corps would do the study.
We would do the study in partnership, with the Army Corps, and then once we get the study done, because we're in partnership with the Army Corps, hopefully will lead us to an expedited process to start funding improvements as we, the cost benefit, which is what drives the Army Corps.
It's really finding out what that solution is, because like you said, there's so many different ideas out there for every different city, around the creek. What would be the biggest bang for your buck, I guess, right?
What the council said to me, less than a year ago was, what can we do to materially impact the flood level on Clear Creek? Whether that's detention, whether that's Dsnagging, whether that's some sort of bypass, both Clear Creek and Dickinson Bayou. And so we're going to quantify that, be able to cost it out, be able to put ourselves in a position to apply for and qualify for grants to better leverage our local dollars and the local dollars of the partners along both of those waterways.
Absolutely.
So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of things to bring together. The bond issue projects is probably a 5-year program. Working with a Corps is probably more like 5 to 10 year, because again, it's more significant. There's environmental
because the study has to
considerations.
happen first before we go out there and start doing any solutions. So we're not talking in the next year or two you're going to start seeing work along the creek, or
Not-
what?
Well, there's some talk about desnagging along the creek, but that's pretty minimal total
Yeah,
impact.
right.
And so that's out there. That's being led by the county. And so it'll be at least a few more years. The study time is 18 months
Okay,
once we get
that's
started.
good to know.
So we're still a ways away on that. But the bond projects we'll start seeing activity on next year, I'm sure.
Well, walk me through the bond project and the timeline. A lot of folks are like, well, we approved the bond project. Why isn't there construction happening right now? And so
Yeah.
walk folks through the timeline a little
so
bit.
just, we have a fiduciary responsibility to spend our dollars, in accordance with, state mandated procurement processes. And so, but there's a design element to that. There's an environmental permitting element to that. If I'm in wetlands or creeks or something like that, all the drainage projects impact that. And so I've got to be cleared by the federal government if there's a Army Corps permitting issue. And so there's a design process, possibly a land acquisition, possibly a permitting process, and then a construction process. And so, in a good project, it takes a year for design. If you throw in land and permitting, it could take another year, and then, roughly anywhere from 8 months to 15 months for construction.
That's important to know. And as you mentioned before, a lot of them were already in the design phase, thanks to, as the mayor mentioned, thanks to your good
We knew they were coming.
And so a lot of those are already in the design phase and are kind of moving forward. And we hope to have the bulk of most of those drainage ones, at least in the design phase by the end of the year, correct?
That's our goal, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and then 3 to 5 years for completion is what we're thinking?
Yeah, some that have longer permitting will take a
Yeah.
little bit longer, and construction time will take a little bit longer. But our goal is to get the public's money invested in the projects that they supported as quickly as possible, obviously.
Absolutely. And stay tuned as well. Our next fall edition of City Matters, the print edition that will be hitting your mailboxes in mid to late September. It's going to have a lot more on the bond project, including a new bond website, a new bond material. So folks can kind of follow along the entire way to know where these projects are at. Switching gears is a little bit, when we think about Harvey, what are some of the lessons you guys learned that you take forward to as city leaders here 2 years after the fact?
Well, I think you can't keep saying it's not going to happen to us and it's going to happen somewhere in the future. And I think for a lot of years in this town, we knew, we've been there before, but it's been 40 some odd years and the community's changed a great deal. And I don't know that there was as much fear in people's hearts as it is today. I think on our part, and I think on John's part, is to get as much of this done and be proactive, not to let it get here and flood us again and put us in a bad spot. And whatever he's doing to improve internal drainage here in town, that's something that's going to have to be kept up. And it's not shouldn't sway from one council to the next. Should be consistent down the road. He's got some road projects in the CIP and in the bond issue that still need to get done. We're going again on Wednesday up to Austin for the Grand Parkway. That's not over yet.
I'm glad you mentioned that. So what are we doing Wednesday for the Grand Parkway?
The commission is meeting Thursday morning early, and we will get a final decision whether or not sections B, C, and D are part of the Unified Transportation Plan, and if they're not, we just are, we're going to be focused on something else.
Yeah.
We've spent a lot of time sending up information to those folks, and we've traveled to 2 other public hearings, and we don't want to stop until we either find out it's a go or it's a no.
To move forward.
That's
we need to know we have that support.
That's right. So if anybody's listening and you want to call up Representative Bonin or Senator Taylor, tell them how important, or Middleton, tell them how important it is that we have that. And I will tell you, I did get an email the other day. It's the only one I've gotten. There was a lady that just didn't want it. It was going to interrupt her backyard activities, and I understand that. But sometimes we have to make decisions on the greater good. And the truth of the matter is, with the population doubling in the next 20, 25 years, we've got to get people in the work centers. I-45 will be outdated 6 months after it's completed, just like it has been since the 50s. So, a lot of kudos go to John. Keep us thinking forward. This council has been really receptive to thinking forward, not getting caught up in the mess, and they're looking for some results, and John's producing them. We're all happy. At the moment.
At the moment. Key phrase, at the moment. As we close out, any kind of lessons learned or moving forward here now 2 years after the fact?
No, I think there's a lot for us to do, and and work to get our projects done and get our processes streamlined. Been great support from the community and the council in giving us the tools we need to improve our community and harden it. Obviously, we can't be too prepared. The other thing we've done is looked at our drainage maintenance, and we've enhanced mowing schedules and ditch inspections and those kind of things. We'll continue to have to do that. Can't rest on our laurels. There's lots to do.
Good point. Good point.
Let me add one thing to
Sure.
that. And for anybody that's listening, one of the best moments, I think, in this town was after Harvey, when everybody started to realize the heart of this community and the character that everybody showed in helping one another. That should be a goal every single day at what we do. And I try to be happy about it. I try to go out and talk to people about it. But it's really up to every person who's listening here today to, nothing happens as fast as you want it to. Nothing is as good as you could do it. But we are here and we are trying. And, this is a great community. And it's going to be even greater community as time goes on. So be proud to be a League Cityan. Tell other people about it. I certainly do, and I encourage everybody
Yeah,
else to
we
do
need to
exactly
keep
the same.
that momentum and that spirit of volunteerism and helping your neighbor and being there for one another. Let's keep that going.
Absolutely.
Shouldn't take a storm. We should just be like that every day, right?
Maybe our northern suburb will learn a lesson from us.
Well, thanks for joining us, everybody, today for Mondays with the Mayor. Tomorrow is actually a council meeting. Hope you watch on Channel 16 or come on out. We actually have our first reading of the budget for fiscal year 2020. You're welcome to come on out and give your thoughts or feedback on that as well. So we will see you again next Monday. Thanks for joining.